Do you really want to talk about him? Really? We haven't talked about him enough. Do you have anything to say about Victor Olofsson? No. Fine. We'll talk about Victor Olofsson. Welcome back to the Fantasy Hockey Podcast. It's time to talk about one of the hottest players in the National Hockey League, and that is Victor Olofsson. Now, we've talked about him so much. I know already on the podcast. We've talked about him on Twitter, everywhere. You can't escape Golofsson mania. It's impossible. So what we wanted to do on this show was specifically more target redraft leagues, not so much keeper and dynasty leagues. I think it's obvious that you should keep him in those ones, but more so redraft leagues, because a lot of the questions we've gotten about him are, what's his ceiling? What should I expect from him? Should I be selling high right now? And all those questions are very important, and I think they still fall under the idea of hot hands. Even though it's going to be hard to add him now, he's already at around 70+% owned, which, by the way, if he is available in your league, you probably should grab him. But let's talk more about the prospects. What's underlying good and bad on Victor Olofsson, and what can you expect going forward? So the other thing to mention really quick, friendly reminder, if you're finding us through whatever means you find us, YouTube search or something like that, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. We plan on doing these hot hands and bust watch videos pretty consistently. And on top of that, we have a ton of other fantasy content. So I bet you'll love us. Anyways, okay, so let's talk about Victor Olofsson here. And let's first start off with this sheet where we'll talk a few things on what's good and what's bad with Victor Olofsson. This should be a little bit of a shorter video, because we're not really talking about negative or positive in terms of deployment. So his deployment is obviously good. He's getting 18 minutes per game. He's getting almost 4 minutes of average power play time on ice per game. That's insane. That's really good. Now, we'll get into why that's both good, but also a little bit concerning in a second. He obviously has 6 goals, has 17 shots on goal, and 2 assists. Now, from a shots rate standpoint, he's actually lower than last year, although last year he only played 6 games, so the sample size is really small there, so I wouldn't put too much weight in that. Now, one thing that, of course, is concerning, and everyone should already know, is his shooting percentage. It's at 35.29%, just a little bit high. Just a little bit. Last year he was sitting at 9.52% at the end of the season. So, yeah, just a little bit higher. And then if we go over here to his power play shooting percentage, so what is he shooting at on the power play? It's at 46.15%. Now, last year he finished the season at 40%, but again, he only took 5 shots on goal in the power play. But still, he shot at 40% last year. I'm not saying the 40% is sustainable, but he may be a pretty elite power play sniper. Now, again, it's one of those things where he might get figured out eventually, but for now, he is killing it. That being said, that's not going to stay the same. That is definitely going to come down. So don't expect him to be shooting at 46% on the power play in the future. He's getting pretty good offensive zone starts over here, 83.93 versus 63.27 of last year, and that's all strength. So that's also largely just because he's getting so much more time on the power play that is going to increase his offensive zone starts. Now, from a hits and block space, he doesn't do those. So don't be counting on peripherals. So in a points league, Victor Olofsson is even more valuable simply because of the points. His value decreases a tad if you're in a peripherals league, which by peripherals, I mean hits, blocks, penalty minutes, shots on goal, that kind of thing. From a shots perspective, he's shooting fine. Nothing to really be super impressed by. I'm probably looking, like, if he plays 82 games in the season, we're probably looking at around 200 shots in total by the end of the season for Victor Olofsson. That's not terrible. It's pretty good. But if you bring that shooting percentage down to, let's say, I don't know, 12%, even though he shot at 10% last year, let's assume. Yeah, so if you're looking at 12 to 15%, let's say, for Victor Olofsson, what you're looking at is like 25 to 30 goals, depending on whether he finishes 12% or 15% shooting on the season. Now, he's shooting at 35% right now, so that's got to come down. Now, what you'd hope is that as the shots come up, he just starts scoring less, so that shooting percentage comes down. But that also just means he might go on these stretches where he doesn't score. So in my eyes, he finishes in I think he can get 25 to 30 goals as long as he stays top line. That seems really reasonable. The big question mark for me, and the thing that is a little bit concerning with Olofsson, is his 5-on-5 play. His Corsi is not fantastic. He has only 2 points. 2 points, even strength. That being said, Eichel as well is not getting as many even strength points. Eichel is actually sitting at 6 of 10 on the power play, if I remember correctly. Here, let's plug in Jack Eichel here really quick and take a look. So he has 6 power play points of his 10 points. So yeah, 6 of 10 points are on the power play. So kind of similar to Olofsson, big swing towards the power play, which is net negative in total for Buffalo. So if we take a look at Buffalo itself, let's go to Hockey Reference here. So they have the third most power play opportunities, and they have 28 power play opportunities, and they're converted. Oh, they're second now. Okay, I guess it's tied with Carolina. Didn't notice that, but sure. So Buffalo is tied with Carolina through 7 games played for power play opportunities. So how many power plays they've gotten? They're converting at 35%. That's insane. I mean, that's like, you know whose numbers that are? That's Edmonton numbers and the Rangers numbers who've played 3 games. So whatever. And Boston's converting right now at 31. 35 is not going to stick. Last year, I think the average was around, I want to say the last year, the highest was Tampa or Toronto, and that was at like 23-ish%, something like that, if I remember correctly. But that's kind of what you're looking at them actually converting at. It's near impossible if they continue converting at this insane 35. I mean, look at Edmonton, too. Edmonton, as we've talked about, is super unsustainable in the way they're playing. Of course, they have the wild card in McDavid, but still, they're not going to convert at 45% on the power play. So, but the thing with Buffalo that's a little more concerning than Edmonton is the fact that they're not really converting much at even strength. So if you take a look at Victor Olofsson type, for example, at 5-on-5, let's look at his right here, NHL possession metrics, even strength. Come over to OISH, on-ice shooting percentage. So right now, his on-ice shooting percentage is 12.5%. So while he's on the ice, the team as a whole is shooting at 12.5%. That's pretty damn good. That's really solid. And those are elite numbers. Now, that makes me a little bit worried, though, by the fact that he only has 2 assists. That's not great. I would like to see more assists out of Victor Olofsson. And not to sound alarm bells, but the thing with that is when you're not getting assists or really driving play much at 5-on-5, what I could see happening to Victor Olofsson, and I don't think this is going to happen anytime soon, but one thing I could see happening is him becoming a second-line top power play kind of guy. And that's the one area where I see his ceiling limited, is that just his 5-on-5 play so far has not been super impressive. It's all come from the power play. I mean, to be fair, almost all of Buffalo has kind of come from the power play, but that specifically for Olofsson is the thing I'm watching. Now, if we look at all his on-ice shooting percentage, so you look at all his strength, so including the power play, his on-ice shooting percentage is at 17.57%, which is extremely high. Those are James Neal numbers. So if we've been saying James Neal is going to come down, so is Victor Olofsson. So when I look at a guy like Victor Olofsson, what I really want to see is I want to see a guy who gets more even strength points. I want to see more 5-on-5 points. And then I'll believe, you know what, this dude is the real deal. It makes me a little bit happier, the fact that Eichel, for example, doesn't have as many even strength points either. It makes me think, okay, well, they're probably aware of the fact that it's just all of Buffalo in general that's not really getting that many even strength points at the minute. So they're not going to just take Olofsson off the line because he's the one that's the problem. It's more so just that whole, the whole team in general, just 5-on-5 isn't doing that fantastic. So what I would say with Olofsson is definitely keep. I think he's definitely a keep guy. Brandon, I don't know if I said this already, but Brandon thinks his ceiling is around 70. I see him more as a 55 to 60 point guy with, I think, sure, if things go completely right for Victor Olofsson, sure, he could be a 70-point guy. Brandon sees him as like a 35 guy. I don't see where those assists are coming from at the moment. He hasn't factored into many goals. And so that's the big question mark for me, is can he actually factor into goals on a very consistent level to get 35 assists? We'll see. I could see him getting more 25 to 30 goals. I don't see him getting 35 unless his shooting goes up a lot. I don't see that shooting percentage staying at like 17-20%. Though who knows? I've been proven wrong before. So that's kind of what I'm eyeing. Now, as far as sell high goes, I would definitely think about it. I would float it out to owners and see what you can get. I mean, with Olofsson, in my opinion, right now, with the way he's playing, and especially if you're in a points league, I mean, even in a Cats league that counts goals and power play points at this point, you want to keep him. Goals and power play points are hard to come by at this stage of the season when you're picking them up from waivers. So someone like Olofsson is pretty valuable. I personally wouldn't trade for him. If you trade for him, you're going to be paying sky-high prices. But if you do own him, I would shop him around just a little bit. Just see what owners would be willing to pay. Maybe like, it's okay, perhaps. I don't think you'd be offending any owners if, for example, you send Olofsson and someone for Aho. I don't think you'd offend the owner. I don't think they'd get mad. Maybe they'd tell you to screw off and like decline the trade, but I don't think you'd make them mad in the sense that they'd never trade with you again. But it's worth it. It's worth seeing what happens. And perhaps they say, you know what? I won't give you Aho, but I'll give you this other really good player. And so that's what I'd do. I'd shop it, not actually with the intent of trading Olofsson. I'd only trade Olofsson if I'm getting like the highest of returns, simply because we don't really know what his ceiling is. You kind of have an idea, but you don't really know. And with guys like that who I picked off waivers, I'd rather just keep and hold rather than sell it like a mediocre price. So the only way I'm selling is if I'm selling high, but I definitely advocate keeping long term and seeing what you can get for them and aiming pretty high up the chain in terms of the players that are out there. Other than that, thank you for watching. We'll catch you next time. There's another Hot Hands video coming out later today, so be sure to keep an eye out for that. We'll catch you next time. Thanks for watching.